This is the Audeze MM-100, and aside from the Maxwell, which is really aimed at the gaming beginner audiophile crowd, the MM-100 is, I would say, your cheapest entryway into the professional studio mixing headphone space that, good news, even your spouse and bank account will approve of. If you've been pining for the capabilities, the accuracy, the quality of, say, an LCD-X or MM500, but just want a taste rather than go all in, this could whet your appetite. And more than you might think, guys. And as always, I'm going to talk about the specs and then do some sound demos, talk about the good and the bad, and then we'll round it all up at the end. And by the way, you can watch full sound demos for the MM100 as well as other headphones and speakers when you sign up for a Patreon or YouTube membership. Anyways, let's do this. The Audeze MM-100 retails for $400, and this thing is an open back planar magnetic, guys, meant for mixing, but is also pretty darn awesome for listening to just your tunes. It has a 90mm transducer in here, and it's relatively heavy, although for long listening sessions, it has been perfectly fine. 473 grams, mostly magnesium and steel. For any kind of metal materials you see, there's no surfaces that you see, there's no titanium or any fancy smancy carbon fiber or anything like that. It also comes with a 8-foot long braided cable that you can, I hope it focuses. This thing has a single-ended 3.5mm and terminates in a 1/4 inch right there. You're free to use either side for depending on your workflow, but also you can use both left and right at the same time if you have a cable that's of TRS. And I'll talk more about some issues with that later on in the episode. Feel free to use the chapter skips down below. The ear pads are gel filled. They're really nice and soft and they come back pretty quickly. And the headband is not a slider, but it is using tabs like this. There is quite a good amount of axis turn here on the vertical axis, but of course it doesn't like fold in compactly. There is some to adjust your head like so. One more important thing to point out is the aperture of the ear pads. They're a little bit small, so folks with larger ears may have to test this out or look elsewhere. The depth is pretty nice though, so that's a little concession right there. You've probably already heard that the MM in the MM series stands for many-time Grammy-winning sound engineer Manny Marrocan. Well, what I'm more interested in here is why the MM500 product page has his face like plastered from top to bottom, but for some reason, Manny didn't pose for a single shot with the MM100. Go check it out if you don't believe me. Interesting, right? But anyways, while I let you go make your own conjectures about that, let's talk SQ because that's what we're here for, right? Dang it. So the MM series moves away from your typical Audeze house sound, going instead for something the company deems a blend of the Harman headphone tonal balance curve and the Fletcher-Munson human ear equal loudness curves. And I totally use those terms just to pretend like I know what I'm talking about. Yes. Now, I have yet to get my hands on a MM500, so I can't confirm or deny the assertion that much of the mixing-centric tuning trickled down to this lesser model. That means strong focus on vocals with some color added to the highs with the specific purpose of helping a producer decide what kind of vocal and instrumental balance they need in their recordings. For example, in My Narrow Man by Gwyneth Herbert, the MM100 brings out the exquisitely captured strings and percussions balanced with her vocals, and probably likely the way the sound engineer heard it in person. Here's another one, Regina Spektor's Edit. Oh my goodness, guys. How is it possible that my ears never lose sight of Spektor's voice despite of, if you've heard the song, the frantic instrumentation throughout, and yet can still confidently pull apart each piano strike? My goodness, this thing is amazing. Soundstage in general isn't wide on purpose, giving the listener the ability to hear each component almost in equal measure, and yet also maintaining a good amount of imaging. Treble is also peaky, but it backs off just enough, guys, to not be draining. But this doesn't mean that like high notes or sounds are blunted. Like say, for example, cellos and violins, I'll tell you what, are magnificent on these. The reverb and timbre of fast staccato floats through your headspace like you're right there conducting the musicians. In terms of sub-bass, I would say it is very satisfying, although it's not the kind of bass that bass heads crave. In this case, Audeze keeps things civilized with rolling bass that booms and thumps just enough without overlapping other frequencies too much. And I'll say it's not bad for their cheapest and lightest headphone. Well, aside from the Maxwell, but that's a totally different category as we mentioned. For the mids, there's a slight dullness in the 500 hertz range, according to my ears anyway, before a nice flourish washes over the all-important mid and upper mid range. And again, as I mentioned before, the MM100 really makes male and female vocals pop just enough. I, for one, am happy that Audeze didn't get the memo that downsizing and downpricing usually means cheaping out on parts, materials, and quality. Well, the last part, I have a small niggle about that. We'll talk more about that in the negatives. But for the most part, the MM100 could easily be mistaken for its pricier brethren and sistren. And sure, you might not be getting things like lambskin leather or titanium bits and bobs and all that, but the way the even most basic looking materials come together, it's quite impressive actually. Come on closer right here. This is my favorite aesthetic touch. It's a simple looking wishbone at first glance, but the smooth chamfering combined with the extremely rigid molding right here gives it a soft yet tough vibe. It's a slight shame then to have the headband strap not be a slider. and I'm guessing that was to save cost. But in this case, we have to settle for a tab system that firstly doesn't let you truly dial in that last bit of fit. And also secondly, you can probably see it right now, the more you use this strap, like the more you attach it and remove it, the holes in the leather enlarge, which in turn causes the tab to come loose way too easily. I just have to like shake it, and sometimes it just comes right off. Theoretically, you could use a cable with both left and right TRS outs to listen to tunes if you wanted to. But in some early review units, there was like reported issues of like funky internal wiring of the left ear cup where channels were basically swapped if users used both left and right at the same time. So basically all they heard was audio coming from the left. Now, my unit does the opposite. It plays only on the right with both plugs pushed all the way into the ports, just in case you're wondering. And if I pull the left side out just a smidge, audio balances out again. Yeah, Audeze, are you listening? You really need to stay on top of this and get a fix out ASAP. What's with Audeze not allowing folks to swap out their ear pads? This thing is glued right on. And I know there's the argument about third-party pads messing with the sound signature and all that, but having no user-friendly way of swapping out damaged ear pads, for example, gets a major thumbs down from me. You know, it is so good to see that us working class folks here at the end of 2023 are spoiled for choice for affordable, new production grade planar mags. Well, relatively anyway. So with products like the MM-100, the Sennheiser HD660S2, or the Hi-Fi Man Ananda Nano, consumers like you and I on tight budgets can get our toes wet into what is eventually a dark, expensive world of audio if you wanted to, without a full baptism right off the bat. And in this case, Audeze basically trickled down much of what makes the MM500 a standout mixing headphone into something, this thing right here, that even undercuts the Hi-Fi Man and Sens by $200. So the 100 not only brings out the best in your tracks, or worse, depending on what quality files you throw at it, it's made beautifully, it's also saves you tons of time and money over having to sound treat your room, guys, like buying the right speakers and all that, yada yada yada, you know how that works. That being said, I am curious how widespread the internal wiring issue is though. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have one of these, please share it down below. So that's the end of the video, guys. Again, say hi down below and I'll try to say hi back. Thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to show your support. Seriously, don't just watch and just go away. Subscribe and thumbs up this video. Also visit my Patreon page as well as my YouTube membership pages where you can get perks and also watch more full-length sound demos of all the audio gear that I test. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I love you all very much. Remember to do something loving and kind for somebody in this world this weekend, today, or whatever it is, because guess what? The world needs it more than ever, and it starts with you. I love you all very much. Peace out.